Welcome everyone to this month's edition of the Wild Wednesday webinar. My name is Paul Kiewit. I'm the Executive Director of MIPA, and the Wild Wednesday webinars are brought to you by a collaboration of all of the regionals in District 3, including UMAP, PPAW, PPA Chicago, TISPA, OPA, MIPA, and our friends over at PPA Midwest. It is a collaboration, and it's made possible by our friends at Apothecary Products, also known as the API line. They're based here they're based both in Michigan and Minnesota. They have their headquarters in Minnesota and they're manufacturing here in Michigan, and they make these possible. I'd like to wish everyone happy holidays, happy Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, and anything else that you celebrate this month. This webinar is being recorded and it will be rendered, and I will be making it available on the MIPA Facebook page later this afternoon, and then it will also be published on the MIPA website, which is mipa.org /WednesdayWebinars.html. It is available. It is worth 1 CAS credit. At the end of the webinar, you'll be brought to a evaluation page, and you can fill in your PIN number there, and I will automatically send that up to PPAI and get you credit for it. If you're listening to this as a recorded one, you'll have to send your PIN number to me, Paul Kiewit, and that email is paul@mippa.org. Also, if for some reason you don't find that page today, you can send your PIN number to me. That's paul@mippa.org. Today's presentation is available for download. You'll find on the left side of the screen a chat box where you can type in your questions throughout Lisa's presentation. And at the very top, you'll also find a link that you can click to download a copy of the PDF of this presentation. Our presenter today is my good friend Lisa Horn. Lisa's also known as the Publicity Gal. I've known her a long time, from back when she was editor of PPB magazine. She knows the industry. She knows how to build brands with content marketing, and that's the name of her presentation today: 7 ways to build your brand with content marketing. So without any further introduction, Lisa, take it away.
Thanks so much, Paul. I appreciate that. Yeah, we have known each other a long time, since the summer of '99, in fact, when we went to PPAI's Power of Creativity seminar. That was in Breckenridge, Colorado. So long time that Paul and I have known each other, and I did have a chance to work with him when I was editor at PPB, when he was chair of the board, and we had a chance to work together then. So it's nice to be able to get back with you and do some presenting here. So let's jump right in. 7 ways to build your brand with content marketing. Just a little bit about me that we mentioned. I did spend about 10 years on the staff of PPB magazine, so I created a lot of content in my time there. What some of you may not know is that I was a distributor for 4 years prior to joining PPAI. So in total, I've been in the industry about 20 years now. I've seen the changes and how content has become to play a very important role in what we do as promotional products professionals. So in today's webinar, here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to look at some of the current content marketing trends and how they apply to you as a promotional products professional. We're going to look at 7 ways that you can create content to boost your brand. There are more ways than just these 7, but and I could talk all day about this, but we have a limited time frame, so I narrowed it down to 7 that I think are applicable to our marketplace. We're going to learn some essential content development tips so that you can get started off on the right foot, and then we're going to talk about 3 must-haves to every content piece. If any of you are socially active, please tweet away. I've used the hashtag Wednesday webinar, and you can copy me and or Paul on any tweets. I've got some scheduled to go out throughout the webinar, so feel free to retweet those with your audience as well. Save them if you find them valuable, and join the conversation. Okay, so let's talk about how we go about, just as consumers, looking for information. I'm sure you guys are like me. If you've got a purchase and you're not sure where you want to go or who you want to buy it from, you go to Google and you start looking at your options. And the results that we find on Google are going to be content. So think about what you've got if somebody is Googling you and they are wanting to find the promotional products that you sell, they're looking for marketing and branding help, what kind of content do you have out there that will help buyers make a decision to come to you versus your competition? So why is content so important? In the book, Get Content, Get Customers, the authors say buyers need content that makes them smarter and more knowledgeable. Businesses that provide content will win. And that's just the case of how business is done today. If we're looking for the right type of business to meet our very specific needs, we have to know that who we go to is going to be a good fit, whether that is their particular expertise, whether it's pricing, whatever the case may be. Content can help convey your expertise, what makes you different, what makes you unique, and separates you from the competition. All right, here's some fast facts for you. Lots of good research out there on content marketing, and I was very interested in this first fact, actually, that 62% less, it costs 62% less than traditional marketing, and yet it generates 3 times as many leads. Well, that's because you're doing some pre-qualification, some pre-selling to convince those buyers that you are the right fit for them. 60% of marketers create at least one piece of content weekly. Well, we know in any activity, whether it's sales development, cold calling, follow-up, constant activity is what makes you successful. It's a numbers game. And so just like in sales, content's the same thing because you're going to reach people at different times. It's not like everybody gets on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn, consistently, every day, but they may be on it once or twice a week, at different times of the day. So it's that consistent activity that helps get you noticed, get your brand out there. But here's the challenge. Only 32% of marketers say that they are effectively executing enough content. I think we're all challenged to find the time and to make content a priority. Even though we know it's very important, it gets to be sometimes it feels a little bit overwhelming, and we're going to talk about some ways to reduce that feeling of overwhelm. The average organization spends 30% of its marketing budget on content, with the most effective spending 39%. That's a fairly high number for a total marketing budget. So I challenge you guys to think of how much you're spending on your content development. And are you getting anywhere close to those numbers? And if you haven't been successful with your content marketing, maybe you need to allocate some more resources towards that. Okay, so what are the top 5 marketing goals? According to the Content Marketing Institute, marketers use content most often for brand awareness, lead generation, customer acquisition. So those 3 things are the sales process. You have to have your brand in front of people in order for them to know what you offer and that you're even an option for them. And then the next step is converting them into a lead, and conversely, then you've got to convert them into a customer. So you can create content around each one of those particular activities. Thought leadership is also a content marketing goal. If you want to be well known in the promotional products industry and or the industry where your clients are, one way to do that is through content. And then, of course, you've got engagement. And, that's the buzzword. That's what's important to a lot of people. And creating engagement is hard these days. There's so much content. There's so much noise out there that getting people's attention isn't easy. And so you've got to have really good content in order to engage them and bring them, into your business. Okay, so let's look at content selling versus buying. For me as a buyer, I don't want to be sold. I want to have a reason to buy. So you can create content that gives people a reason to buy. You can become a resource that provides educational content, and then you naturally attract buyers without so much of a hard sell. So that's for the way that I like to purchase products. I find content very attractive in looking for people to partner with. So what can content do? Well, it can tell your story. It can educate your audience. It can attract buyers, overcome objections. It can help build buzz, create trust, build loyalty, and convert sales. All things that are critically important to anyone doing business today. So here are the 7 ways that we're going to talk about how you can boost your brand with content. We're going to start with blogging, look at social media, email, newsletters, PR, earned media, and presentation. Blogs are so important today because they allow you to publish content that you own. You're the author of. You don't have to wait for anybody else to greenlight your project. You can publish as frequently as you want, and you build an information asset that increases in value year after year. Think about this. If you've got, say you just publish conservatively 1 blog post a month. So in a year, you have 12 articles. In 2 years, you have 24, and so on and so forth. Well, when people Google you or they go to your website to find out more about who you are and what you do, you have more information and you build up a continual asset of content that it never goes away. It's always out there, especially if you have written it with keywords in mind and have tagged keywords and you've done the SEO part on the back end. Then as people do their searches, those sorts of things will come up. There's lots of different blogging platforms out there, and WordPress is what I use and what I use with some of my clients. It's super easy. I am not I'm tech savvy enough to be able to use the programs well, but I don't know how to write code or anything like that. And so WordPress is a good option if you just want to be able to really just kind of cut and paste. It works sort of like Microsoft Word, and it's pretty easy to use. That could be a whole webinar in and of itself. Tumblr is another popular choice. It's got some fun themes that you can download for free or purchase, and it has just kind of a running scroll, and it's really popular if you do a lot of photography. Blogger is another platform. It's recently, in the last couple of years, I think, been purchased by Google. So, from that standpoint, being tied into Google is always good as far as your SEO and popping up in search results. So what blogging platform is right for you, I can't tell you that, but it depends on what you're looking for, your level of skill, and those sorts of things. But I did put a link to an article that has a list of all of the different blogging platforms out there, and that could give you some insight if you don't currently have a blog and you're interested in learning a little bit more about that. You've got a resource there. Some interesting information about blogs. The most effective B2B marketers believe that blogs are the most powerful content marketing tactic. And I've always believed that, but now that there's data to prove that from the Content Marketing Institute. And I think the reason it's the most powerful is because you own that content and you can publish, as frequently as you want. And you can control, everything about it, how it's presented, the images that you include, any additional hot links that are in the story for more information. A lot of times when I'm building content, I look for different ways that I can link back to other posts that I've written to kind of complete the information circle. And that's, as a business person, I want somebody, if they're coming to my website and reading about publicity or content, then I want to direct them to other things that I've written, keep them engaged longer, keep them on the website longer. And it's the same for you guys. If you've got some branding or marketing tips, well, then maybe you can direct them into some case histories to demonstrate success and your expertise. And so you can complete that content circle that way. 82% of marketers who blog see positive ROI for their inbound marketing. That's extremely important because you want to know that your time, your effort, and your money are worthwhile in your marketing efforts. And sometimes if you're just doing brand awareness, it's hard to know if you're being successful. Kind of same thing with straight up advertising. Can you make a direct correlation between advertising and sales? Sometimes you can if you've got a special offer and you have a discount code and those sorts of things. But more often than not, it is difficult for there to be a direct translation. Well, with content, you can create pieces where you do see a direct translation in the ROI. You can, hopefully, if you're blogging now, you've downloaded the Google statistics and the analytics, and so you can, see who is visiting your blog, how much time they spent, what they're looking for, if they're doing any keyword searches, and then you can do any course correction necessary to help ensure that you are on the right track. Brands that create 15 blog posts per month average 1,200 new leads per month. That's according to HubSpot. So that's quite a bit of content, and I don't want you to automatically feel like, oh, I've got to create 15 blog posts. I mean, this is just a statistic and an example, but it gives you some concrete numbers with what these companies are doing and what kind of success that they're having with them. So say you even did 3 blogs per month. Could that potentially get you 400 new leads per month? How else are you getting leads? And what are your costs associated with getting those leads? So there are definitely some things to think about when you are evaluating all of the different ways that you're going to market, how you're allocating your funds, and what's going to be successful. Now, I do want to caution you that don't think just because you build it, they will come. Blogging, from my experience, is a very long-term strategy. It takes time to build up your bank of content. It takes time to build up your email list where people are opting in to get updates about your blog. So don't think just because you're going to start blogging that all of a sudden you're going to see leads come in. It is a longer process, but it is one that is extremely worthwhile because you build up this continual relationship with your audience, and that's what you want. You want to be top of mind so that when they are ready to make a purchase, they think of you first. Okay, social media. Social media has been such a buzz, the last 5 years, and I think it's pretty much expected that you're doing something on social media. Now, the key to your success when you're looking at content is you need to be on whatever social media platform where your audience is engaged. There's no right or wrong answer. Is Twitter better than Facebook? Well, that depends on your audience. What about LinkedIn versus Pinterest? Again, it depends on your very specific audience. So you have to evaluate where your buyers are. Where are they active? It's going to be different for each one of you. So the most common content marketing tactic is social media, which is used by 87% of marketers. Why is that? First of all, it's pretty easy. It's typically short. You can do a social media update, in just a matter of seconds, depending on how long it is. So that's something that can be quite easy to put together. Long term, you have to look at your strategy and how you build content around social media. Obviously, it's a great way to promote your blog posts, but that doesn't necessarily mean that's the only thing you use it for. You can have insight into things that are happening at your company. You can share relevant articles and information, whether that's from industry publications or other business publications that you think are going to be relevant to your audience, that positions you as a thought leader. You can have fun posts. If you're having a holiday party, for example, at this time of year, you can have social media posts around that. If any of you do an open house or you attend trade shows, you can create content around that. So events are also a thing that you can create social media content around. So it ends up being there's lots of options for you, but you also have to make sure, and I'm going to harp on this, but it has to be applicable to your specific audience. If you don't have anything important to say, don't say it. It just ends up being noise. Let's see, the next fact, B2B marketers believe that LinkedIn is the most effective social media network for content promotion. And that makes sense. For how I use LinkedIn, I'm going there to look for business information, look for business articles. I have a question. I'm curious about something. I need an answer. I'm looking for articles to support a presentation like this. I'm looking for information. And so LinkedIn is a great place to look for that information. Facebook, not so much. I use Facebook really to keep up with my friends and their kids and my family and what they're doing. And I do some things with, B2B on Facebook, but my experience and your experience may be different. Like I said, there's no right or wrong answer, but your experience may be, a little bit different. But it seems to me that Facebook for B2B is just a little bit different, especially since they have changed the algorithms and they really want you to pay to play. They want those monies in order for your post to be seen, because as of right now, it's only between 1% to 3% of the people who like your page that are going to see your post in the news feed. And that's discouraging, especially if you're a small business with a limited advertising budget. So, but if you've got a great Facebook network and you've got a lot of engagement, then and that's where your audience is, then you absolutely need to be there. Let's see, 49% of small businesses believe that SlideShare is highly effective content promotion. For those of you who may not be familiar with SlideShare, it is a social network that's built around PowerPoint presentations. And so it is a great way to share content, and it's a great way to learn new things. If you wanted to know a little bit more, let's say, about WordPress and blogging, I can guarantee you that if you go to SlideShare and look up how to use WordPress, there's going to be numerous PowerPoint presentations on how you can integrate and put WordPress to work for you. And that's just one example. I mean, there's subject matter out there for everything. So if people are going there to look for how to do things, well, that could be an option for you as well. How to put together a smart promotion using promotional products, how to incorporate marketing strategy into your promotions. There's all kinds of topics that you could create slides around and use those in your sales process. And that's the whole thing about content is I don't want you to feel like you're overwhelmed and there's all of these different places where you can use content, and you have to create something unique for every single one of them. Integration is the key to successful content promotion. And so, and we'll talk about this a little bit more at the end. I don't want to get too sidetracked yet. But there are just many different ways that you can have one idea and then turn it into numerous content pieces and get the most bang for your buck. But we'll talk about that a little bit more later.
Lisa, there's a couple of questions on the chat box. One about getting analytics from LinkedIn. Scott wonders if you can do that, or do you need a LinkedIn premium post?
That is a great question, and I do not know the answer to that. So let me look and poke around, and Scott, I will get back to you on that. Great question. Not sure of the answer.
Okay, and Paul also has a question there about determining which tool to use.
Oh, as far as social media, looking at your market, well, I think I would probably start with asking your customers how they consume information. You can do it, face to face, or when you're on a sales call. That could become part of your, getting to know your clients. You could also do like a Survey Monkey survey, and just ask them, Are they, how do they use Facebook? Are they using it mainly personally, or are they using it professionally? Are look at your client base and see how many of them you are connected with on LinkedIn. Hopefully, it's a significant proportion. But look at the things. Are they active on LinkedIn? Are they posting? Are they commenting? It's kind of time consuming to do some of that research, but it can give you some insight into what they're looking for. If they're on Twitter, look at the types of information they're sharing. Look at what they're commenting on, and that may give you some insight too. I mean, you need to be kind of well-rounded and have a presence, probably in all those three major social media outlets. But how much time you spend in each one is going to be kind of unique to each of you, based on what your interest is. Some people really love Facebook and they hate Twitter, and vice versa. And so you have to go with what you enjoy. But you also have to look at how much time you want to allocate to social media versus some of the other options, and then allocate your time appropriately. And one thing that makes things easier, and I don't have this in the slides, but I would use a scheduling tool so that you can do your social media kind of in blocks, especially if you are promoting blog posts. I use Hootsuite. There are a number of different scheduling tools out there. Hootsuite is easy, and it allows you to integrate Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Google+, and several, Pinterest, and several others. I'm sure I'm forgetting something. But you can create your post, and then you can schedule it, at various times. And it's really simple, and then that saves you from thinking, it's Wednesday and at 3 o'clock I need to go put something out on social media. Well, if you set an hour aside, maybe a week, and you schedule that week's social media posts, then that helps kind of streamline your activities. So, there's no really right or wrong answer, Paul, for determining which tool. You should probably have a presence on all of them, but look at where your customers are, and I would focus more time there. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, email. People who opt into your email list want to hear from you. And that's the beauty of having a really great email list, is that you have a captive audience of people who are interested in you. So I challenge you to go beyond just sending product information. Give them ideas on how to use products. Give them information to make their job easier, and that in turn will enhance your sales process. Customers who receive email newsletters spend 82% more when they buy from the company. That's huge. That is so important. And I think for us, for promotional products practitioners that are doing B2B, I think email is extremely effective because you do have that captive audience. And there's just so much out there on social media that, a lot of times they may miss what you post, but email is in their inbox, and they have to pay attention to it at least a little bit. Even if they just see the headline and they trash it, they've at least seen your name and the headline, even if they didn't read the email because they were busy or not interested. But it gives you a real inside track with people. So I think that's something that absolutely needs to be in everybody's content arsenal. Newsletters are a powerful communication tool, and they can either be as a standalone vehicle or combined with other content marketing tactics. But here's the question: electronic or print? And print kind of went out of style when the electronic tools got to be so popular, and especially with social media. So, but I wonder, at this point in the game, would print be an effective option to break through some clutter and make you stand out, because there's not a lot of people doing print newsletters anymore. Good or bad? I don't know. Depends on your audience. But I'm just kind of wondering out loud here if that might be a way, especially if maybe you did something quarterly and you made it some lumpy mail, and you had a product sample to a very select group of clients, that you could break through the clutter. Just throwing that idea out there. The success of newsletters, however, is you have to have a regular publishing schedule, and that's true really with any content. But whether you go electronic or print, having it, whether it's something that you do monthly or something you do quarterly, you have to determine what your interest level is and your budget and your time allocation in order to make the correct choice there. But newsletters can do a lot of different things, especially when you look at taking pieces of content and combining them all in one place. So let's say you've got a couple great blog posts on branding and marketing strategy, and maybe you've got a product that you want to feature, and let's say you've got some company news. You hired a new salesperson. Somebody has, let's say, they're doing some volunteer work and have been elected to a board of directors. So there's all different kinds of content that you can combine in one place to give an overall snapshot of what's happening at your company right now. And newsletters are a great way to take that content and combine it in one easy place. And you can either have all of it, in, like a constant contact or something like that. And then you can also post those archives onto your website. Of course, you would post all, links to all of that out social media-wise, so you can see how things would be integrated to get the most out of that content. Okay, publicity and PR. Being featured in media outlets that are relevant to your audience not only boosts your visibility, but also provides that independent third-party endorsement that enhances your credibility. So whether you're wanting to be noticed in our industry publications, or you're looking to be in publications that your customers read, there are ways to go about doing that, whether it's press releases, being interviewed by those media outlets, or writing some bylined articles. And earned media is kind of an offshoot of that, but I wanted to kind of put that out separately because earned media is very powerful when you're looking at you're being quoted in an interview or having an actual bylined article that you've written. And the reason it's important is because it can truly showcase your expertise and boost your credibility. And it can help you reach new readers. That's what you're looking for. You want to expand your audience, and you can do that by getting into the publications where your customers are. Presentations. Teaching is one of the most definitive ways that you can demonstrate your expertise. So look for opportunities locally, whether it's doing something, with your Chamber of Commerce, or if there are local groups where your customers go. Nationally, whether it's things with PPAI or ASI or promo marketing or the associations where your customers are. If you've got customers in, say, the restaurant niche. Well, the Restaurant Association, I'm sure, has trade shows, and they have breakout sessions, and they have keynote speakers, and that may be a place, if you have customers in that area, where you could do presentations. You can also host your own. There are so many webinar platforms out there that you could host a quarterly webinar and invite your current customers and put it out there for prospects, and do it on something like branding or marketing strategy that will help them make the right choices when they are putting promotions together, and it shows that you are the definitive expert on that topic. All right, so getting started. How do you get started in all of this? I know that it can be overwhelming. So in order to feel confident moving forward, think about these three things. You need to understand your audience, think like a journalist, and write what you know. So understanding your audience is the key to success. You've heard me say it already, and I will probably say it again before we're done. But before you put your fingertips on that keyboard, you must understand what your audience's information needs are. What are their pain points? How can you become a resource to make their life easier? So think about those things in order to create meaningful, relevant, and actionable content. And that's only determined by your audience. So have some of those conversations. Ask them, what their challenges are, and think about when you are in sales presentations, what kind of questions that they ask you, and start looking at ways that you can create content around some of those avenues. Thinking like a journalist. So one of the main content mistakes is that you write about what you want to say rather than what your audience wants to hear. It's a very subtle distinction when you kind of flip that point of view. So I challenge you that instead of thinking like a marketer and pushing information out there, think like a journalist and pull those people in. So look for the story behind the sale. What I mean by that is when somebody is having a trade show, okay, and they need promotional support for that. Well, think about all of the ways you could talk about content in those situations, whether it's how to do pre-show promotion, how to incorporate promotional products at the trade show, how you can use them as follow-up. I mean, there's 3 separate content pieces there. You could combine all of those into, one big white paper, or try to do an earned media article. So those are ways that you can look for the story kind of behind the sale. Address needs, solve problems, and offer advice. That goes back to really knowing your customers and knowing what their pain points are. Write about your experiences and give examples. I'm wired to where I see stories everywhere around me. And for salespeople, that's not always the case. And so one of the things that you can do when you're making your sales calls, you're on the phone with your customers, look back at some of those experiences. What may seem commonplace to you may actually be a great piece of content. It could be something about, I'm making this up on the fly here, but maybe it's, logos that come in wrong and how to have great artwork. It's something that I know our industry has been challenged with a lot, and so maybe you can create some content that, number one, it would help you streamline your sales process a little bit more, but it helps your customer get what they need faster, more accurately. So look at some of the things that you do on a daily basis and look at ways to incorporate content from that, which leads perfectly into writing what you know. You can look at what happens on a daily basis. You want to be authentic. That's what readers want. They don't want you to sound like everyone else. They want a unique voice. They want your perspective. That's part of why they're doing business with you. If they're doing business with you, you're doing something right. They like you, and so take those attributes and use that voice to your advantage. Writing what you know also gives you the opportunity to share your expertise and develop a reputation around your skills. The things that you do day in and day out, your customers may or may not know. Don't take that for granted. I'm sure you've all been in conversation and they said, well, I need this. And you mentioned, oh, well, I can do that. Oh, really? I didn't realize that. So don't think that your customers know everything that you're capable of. Develop some content around a variety of your services so that they know the breadth of what you can do. Writing what you know also helps you develop your style and voice without having to stress out about subject matter. If I tried to write an article on chemistry or nanotechnology, it would be a disaster. I don't know those things. But I know the promotional products industry. I know about content. I know about PR. those are things that I can write about freely. So look at your area of expertise. Some of you may be really great with branding ideas. Well, look at what you're passionate about in your business and create content around your passions. Okay, so I wanted to give you a jump start. You need to have some tools where when you leave this webinar, you can start brainstorming and get started. So look at what questions your customers frequently ask you. Develop content that addresses these current needs and wants. Then look at the questions you wish your customers would ask you, but they never do. This can offer solutions that have not been previously considered. Look at your recent projects that have been successful. What kind of case histories can you put out there? Those are some of the most powerful ways that you can convey your expertise, especially if you have any ROI that's associated with it. Those can be very powerful for content. Look at what your customers want to do better, smarter, faster. That will help provide the needed advice, position you as that trusted advisor, and the go-to resource when they need something. Content must-haves. So every piece of content you publish must have these three things. It needs to have a clickable headline. And what I mean by that, and not that it needs to be electronic, but a clickable headline is just a phrase that means it is something that is going to capture the reader's attention and make them, if it is electronic, click to find more. If it's something that's in print, they're going to be captivated and read more. And I gave you a link to an article that I found, I don't know, maybe it was a year or so ago, but I've bookmarked it and have used it sometimes when I get stuck for headline writing. And there's 28 different ideas there that you can tweak to your personal content and help get over that hurdle of writing headlines. That was a little bit of my challenge at PPB. I'll share that. I could get the story written, but sometimes I just had a heck of a time creating, that really captivating headline, and that's something that I have to work on myself. And so some of those tools out there may help you if you get stuck writing headlines too. The second thing is you must have a compelling opening paragraph. You have to draw the readers in to make them want to continue. People are pressured today. They are not going to read things from beginning to end unless you give them a very good reason to, and that reason has to be in the first paragraph, in the first 2 or 3 sentences. If you do not capture their attention in that very small amount of real estate, then they're going to go on to something else. And then finally, you must have a call to action at the end. What do you want readers to do after they've consumed your content? Give them some options. Do you want them to contact you for more information? Give them a link. For further reading, give them some additional links to articles in your arsenal that are applicable that can help them know more about that particular subject. Whatever it is, give them a call to action. Developing an editorial calendar is a big help as well when you're looking for ways to avoid writer's block. One of the things when you start blogging that I always coach people to do is look at what categories of content you want to have. And once you understand the categories, then you can start filling in the blanks and building an editorial calendar. So, if you're looking to have marketing and branding ideas, that can be one category. Hot products could be another category. Your company news and informations could be a category. So you have to look at what's going on with your unique business and create categories that make sense to your audience for the information that they need. And then start building what stories would be applicable in each of those categories. It's important because that will provide your framework for communication. And then you can also set some deadlines. If any of you were on here before we officially got started, Paul and I were talking about deadlines, and whether it's deadlines that you set yourself or if there are deadlines if you're working with a media outlet that they set on you. Deadlines are always a way to make you accountable for getting that content done. An editorial calendar also allows you to plan around future events. So for those of you that are going to go to the PPAI Expo in January, think about how you can create some content around that. You can talk about your experience there. You can talk about the products that you found. You can, if you're going to any education sessions, you could do some education summaries. So if you, depending on how you set up your content program, those are some things that you could plug in, and putting those on an editorial calendar will help you do that. An editorial calendar will also make it possible to write in time blocks and schedule what's done, so that you don't, come into a panic where you haven't had any recent posts and now what do I write, and that just, makes you have writer's block. So I always suggest I mentioned it before kind of with social media, but if you can allocate time, whatever day, works for you, set aside a couple hours and do some editorial planning, do some writing, and then you can schedule the publication of that content as necessary. I mentioned this a little bit before about integrating and maximizing your content, because people consume content in a variety of ways. So in order to improve your visibility and boost your ROI, combine the pieces. So I did an example with blog posts. So obviously you're going to publish links on social media. Hopefully you have an email distribution list to where you can distribute the blog post via email. We talked about newsletters, so you can include it in an internal or an external newsletter. Here's where things get good. Say you've got several related short posts on one topic. Then you could create a column-length article for earned media and pitch that to a media outlet. Then if you have several articles on a broad subject, then you could create an ebook on that. Do you see kind of how things are building? So it's not like, I really want to write, an ebook. God, where do I start? That's so overwhelming. As you build your content pieces and you see certain themes coming up, then you can look at ways to maximize that over time. This is extremely important. Content builds reputation. So every post, tweet, status update, photo, video is a piece of content that has the potential to positively or negatively reflect on your reputation and that of your company. So think about the messages you're sending. Always think twice before you post. You've seen those news items when somebody tweets something inappropriate, whether it was something racial or just completely insensitive, and they get fired and the company has a huge backlash. And so think about how anything that you publish is going to affect your reputation. What are your customers going to think when they see whatever it is you post? And remember, something that may be funny doesn't always translate as humorous, and that's where a lot of people have gotten in trouble with what they post. Because everyone is a publisher. You may not consider yourself a publisher, but the simple act of posting anything online makes you a publisher. So are you thinking like one? Okay, final thoughts here. Content that has no real value, the Happy Monday posts, they're just noise. So don't post unless you have something relevant to add to the conversation. Think about your audience's needs rather than your own and build content from there. And then, like I just said, everything you post has the potential to build or detract from your personal and corporate brand. Be smart about your content. I want to leave you with how content differentiates. This is from the book, The Experience Effect by Jim Joseph. And he says, this is what great marketing is all about, turning a standard product that could be available anywhere into an incredible and ownable brand experience. There are thousands of promotional products out there. There are thousands of promotional products distributors and suppliers. And if you look at from a broad spectrum of what we do, things are pretty similar. It's the details that make us different. And so turn what you do from being a commodity into something that has value, and content can help you do that. I talked about having a call to action, and here's my call to action for you guys. I want you to make a commitment. Look at the top 3 things that you learned today that you can implement immediately, and make a commitment to do these things, and most importantly, set a deadline. If you don't set a deadline for yourself, these things never happen. And then share your goals with others and keep each other accountable. If you want me to follow up with you, I would love to. Tell me what your goals are, tweet me, and I will follow up with you to see how you're doing. Okay, time for question and answer. If any of you have any further questions, I would love to hear from you, or just comments. And if you guys want to connect with me, here's all of my info.
All right, there's a chat box on the left side of your screen if you have any questions or comments for Lisa. If not, I'd like to thank her for sharing really valuable content with us today. I really am also passionate about the subject because marketing and sales have really changed over the years. And as you mentioned earlier, no one likes to be sold. The thing is, everybody likes to buy, but nobody likes to be sold. And by becoming a good friend and someone who's trustworthy, you can do that through content. She started out talking about the blog. Think about it. You basically can own your own newspaper today, and you're your own publisher. You can own your own radio station with podcasts. You can own your own TV station with a YouTube channel. But the power of a blog is that something you posted 2 years ago can come up when someone's looking for something today. Say you posted a blog post about how to plan a company picnic. 3 years later, someone on a buying side going, I've got to plan a company picnic. How do I do that? Post that on Google, and your name comes up, even though you wrote that years ago.
Exactly, and that's one of the things, when you're looking at what I would call evergreen content, look at things that are challenges consistently throughout the year, and then look for things that are seasonal, like company picnics, like awards presentations, like holiday gifts and celebrations. That can also help you plan your content when you're building your editorial calendar.
I also liked what you said in reply to Paul's question about where should you go. Ask your customers. One of my coaching clients asked her customer which social media to use and found out it was Pinterest, and was able to create a Pinterest page around the colors, the branding, and some of the textures that company used, and really developed a strong relationship with that company through Pinterest. I myself am not very experienced with it. I look at it as an online scrapbook, but I know people in this industry who've been able to build their brand and their business from that channel. But she wouldn't have known it if she hadn't asked and been paying attention. If you're in conversations with your clients, you're going to know pretty quickly if they're really into Twitter or if they're into LinkedIn, but go ahead and ask them. So, and creating content, great tips. I can't wait to look up that link that you shared with us. Everyone, this PowerPoint or the PDF is available for you to download. That's also in your chat box in the upper left. I'd like to remind everybody that we have the PPAI Expo coming up next month. It's moved up a day, so it starts the 11th of January, my birthday, I won't say which one, and runs through the 15th. So hope to see you all there. Also, most of you are in the Tom area. The Tom Show will be running starting in Indianapolis on the 19th, then moves to Cincinnati on the 20th, to Columbus, Cleveland, and finishes up in Troy, Michigan at the beautiful San Marino Club on Friday the 23rd. Here at MIPA, we're also having a really fun bowling party the night before, so watch for details on that. Also, be sure to mark January 28th. That's our next Wild Wednesday webinar. We're going to have Bruce Bolger. Bruce is the executive director and founder of the Enterprise Engagement Alliance. And you've heard that term engagement a lot. Where are the opportunities for people in this business and engagement? Well, Bruce is going to cover that. Once again, To get CAS credits, make sure you fill out the evaluation at the end of this webinar, or send your PIN number to paul@mipa.org, and we'll make sure that you get CAS credits for it. Also need to thank Apothecary Products again for making these webinars possible. Lisa, thank you very much, and all of you, thank you for attending today, and we look forward to seeing you soon at the next PPAI, MIPA, or TOM event, and certainly on the next Wild Wednesday webinar. Thanks very much, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your attendance.